tonight, a broad look, I should say, at the policies of the Biden administration, a jarring change from Trump's policies, and not really in a good way. Let's start at the southern border. By far the most painful self-inflicted wound of this administration. Biden's approval on the border, of course, is in the toilet. And today, the Texas Attorney General sued the Biden administration in an effort to reinstate the Trump-era Remain in Mexico immigration policy. Texas argues that the Biden administration's move to suspend the policy was an arbitrary and capricious decision. Also today, Biden continued with his run of controversial nominees to lead his border disaster. Jadot, seen here, is Biden's nominee to head the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services. She's the current director of the Department of Homeland Security Watch at America's Voice. That's a pro-amnesty nonprofit group. She also wrote this op-ed just last year. CBP, Border Protection, doesn't deserve a penny more until they stop arresting peaceful protesters. Jadot wrote, CBP has the audacity to propose moving money around, defying congressional opposition so that their agents can continue to be the personal militia of the president. An absolutely ridiculous statement. So, of course, she is a total partisan hack and would be put in charge of citizenship and immigration services, which is a joke. This is an open border person. By her standards, that department that she would run should not even exist. Jadot's contributions would only accelerate stuff like this, the disaster at the border. The flood of migrants would get worse. More kids in cages, of course. Wealthier cartels, more drugs, all the nonsense. And we tallied up the numbers from Customs and Border Protection. There have been 351,805 recorded encounters from January until March. That is up 226% from that time last year. That is a huge increase. Even the liberal Washington Post writing last month, no end in sight inside the Biden administration's failure to contain the border surge. The paper, like many Republicans, pointing to Biden's messaging as a major cause for the surge. And again, this is a political loser. We were shocked to see last week that 53% of Americans now support a border wall. Isn't that crazy? And just 24% of Americans approve of Biden's handling of the border. Even Democrat approval is below 50%. So Joe Biden is showing America just how common sense Donald Trump really was, especially on the border, and it's something to see. Today, Republicans called out Dr. Fauci over the border. Congressman Greg Murphy of North Carolina, a doctor himself, wrote a letter signed by 12 other members of the House Republican Doctors Caucus calling on Fauci to express concern over the national health emergency created by the immigration crisis. And speaking of COVID, the most successful part of Biden's rollout of this vaccine, of course, has been thanks to Donald Trump, and we all know that. But the rollout hit a little speed bump today as the FDA paused the distribution of the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. We're going to get to that later on in the show. But today the administration was trying harder to convince Americans to get vaccinated. This all after their own vice president last year destroyed confidence in the vaccine by saying she wouldn't trust a vaccine that came out under Donald Trump. Here's Jen Psaki on their challenge.
We're also investing $3 billion to states and community-based organizations to strengthen vaccine confidence in the highest risk and hardest hit communities. And often people think of that as just black and brown communities, and that is not. As you've noted, that is also conservative communities, white evangelicals. It's a range of communities around the country. We've run PSAs on the deadliest catch. We're engaged with NASCAR and country music TV. We're looking for a range of creative ways to get directly connected to white conservative communities.
Just know that it's your administration's fault. A lot of that hesitancy comes from your administration and the things that they said about the vaccine before they got into power, and we all know that. Meanwhile, President Biden himself has spared no expense to stoke division in this country to pander to his liberal base. Racial division is the next topic we're talking about. He called Georgia Republicans racist for securing their state's elections.
This is Jim Crow on steroids, what they're doing in Georgia.
Remember that, obviously, Biden's entire term in office has been marked by political correctness, by wokeness. A lot of people don't think he's running the show because it is so left, and him perpetuating the myth that America is a racist country at its core, which is just unbelievable, especially to hear from Joe Biden. You remember this comment very early on in this administration.
I made it very clear that the moment it arrived as a nation where we face deep racial inequities in America and systemic racism that has plagued our nation for far, far too long.
Okay. While he fans the flames of racial angst here at home for political purposes, our enemies abroad are taking advantage of Biden, and it's pretty clear and easy to see why. Last month, the Chinese completely blew off Secretary of State Anthony Blinken in Alaska and then threw BLM right back in our face.
The challenges facing the United States in human rights are deep-seated. They did not just emerge over the past 4 years, such as Black Lives Matter.
And as we've mentioned several times on this show, China funds and promotes BLM, which provides them cover for the atrocities that they themselves commit, including on the Uyghur Muslims, as you see right there. There are the cattle cars. Despite all of this, Climate Czar John Kerry is still traveling to Shanghai and South Korea for climate meetings. If there's one man who knows how to negotiate a weak and spineless deal, it certainly would be John Kerry. Just know that whatever the Chinese sign with Kerry, because they're going to come back and they're going to brag about it, obviously, there's no chance the Chinese will ever live up to it. So John Kerry gets to fly private all over the world still, run around, act like he's important, act like he's special, and sign deals that are completely feckless and useless, just like he recently admitted that the Paris Climate Accord was. He admitted that it does absolutely nothing. What a joke. And Biden's State Department still does not view China as an adversary, by the way. Take a look.
We obviously have not made a determination about bilateral portions or meetings that would take place as a part of the summit. We've invited over 40 leaders, but I would say that we are engaged, as you know, at a range of levels. We are approaching our relationship as one not of conflict, but of competition.
Well, the sharks are circling from China's dictator Xi Jinping to Hassan Rouhani in Iran and Russia's Vladimir Putin as well. Ukraine has just announced that Russia has moved 80,000 troops to the border with the border and into Crimea as well. Think about that. Biden and Putin spoke today on the phone. Biden evidently proposed a meeting. The White House didn't say how Putin responded, which means he probably said, nah, I'm good. The last time we had a Democrat in the White House, Russia annexed Crimea, and Barack Obama, of course, did nothing about it, leading with weakness. On Iran, Democrats also enjoy leading with weakness, and it leads to situations like today's news. Iran today announcing it will enrich uranium to 60%, the highest level ever. They know they've got weak leadership in the U.S., and they're loving it. This after an Iranian nuclear plant was sabotaged. Multiple reports across the world say Israel was responsible. We didn't get a heads up from Israel, a country that was our biggest ally when Donald Trump was in charge. Netanyahu not feeling Biden the same way, it would appear. It's pretty clear. Israel realizes the U.S. is about to foolishly re-enter the JCPOA, the Iran nuclear deal, which puts, of course, Israel in far more danger than it does the United States. Here's Jen Psaki on that.
This step both calls into question Iran's seriousness with regard to the nuclear talks and underscores the imperative of returning to mutual compliance with the JCPOA. We share a common stated objective of returning to mutual compliance with the JCPOA with Iran. And we have been engaged constructively in what we felt was constructive dialogue last week, even as it was indirect, in Vienna.
Compliance from Iran on a deal that we all know Iran was cheating on, thanks to Israel letting us know that. Good luck on that.
Hey, I'm Rob Finnerty. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please join the conversation in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe, too. Hit the bell icon to be alerted to breaking news. And remember, there's a whole lot more on Newsmax TV, America's fastest growing cable news network. Newsmax TV, we're real news for real people.